What's going on guys, Mira here, and today I want to do a showcase video on NingGuang. Now, I know you guys are waiting on my Jean build, but I'm sorry, I don't have her built properly just yet, so you guys gotta wait a little bit more. But today's star will be NingGuang, and she is a beast. So I know I haven't showed her off too often in my streams, but I just wanted to take the time today to show her off. Now, before we start this video, a few disclaimers. Number one, I am not a NingGuang main, okay? But I do love her character design, and she's just waifu, so I just wanted to show her off. And number two, my NingGuang is really strong in terms of investments, okay? So she is at Constellation 6, and also she is using the 5-star weapon, Lost Prayer to the Sacred Winds. But before you click off this video, okay? She's still gonna be really strong at lower constellations, and I will show you guys in a bit which are the constellation milestones. But before that, let's just go through some of her skills. Now, I know a lot of you guys are already familiar with NingGuang's kit, but I just wanted to take some time to briefly go through it. And the first attack would be the normal attack, and the normal attack makes up the bulk of NingGuang's damage, and that's why I wanted to specially point it out for you guys. So her normal attack shoots gems that deal geo damage. In fact, she shoots 2 gems every normal attack, and upon hit, this grants NingGuang 1-star Jade. And for her charged attack, it consumes a certain amount of stamina to fire off a giant gem that deals geo damage, and if NingGuang is in possession of any star Jades, unleashing a charge attack will cause the star jades to be fired at the enemy as well, dealing additional damage. And as you can see here, from the skill attributes, the damage per jade is actually pretty high. So we are at talent level 4, and the star jade does 62% damage. Now just keep that in mind as we go through her other skills. So her elemental skill is a Jade Screen. So NingGuang creates a Jade Screen out of gold, obsidian, and her Great Opulence, dealing AoE geo damage. Also, the Jade Screen blocks enemy projectiles, and the endurance scales based off of NingGuang's max HP. So this is kind of like a wind wall, where it blocks projectiles, similar to Yasuo in League of Legends. And basically, when you summon this, it will deal damage to any enemies that are in its area, and after that, it will block projectiles. Moving on to her elemental burst is Star Shatter. So, gathering a great number of gems, NingGuang scatters all of them at once, sending homing projectiles at her enemies that deal massive geo damage. If Star Shatter is cast while the Jade Screen is nearby, the Jade Screen will fire additional gem projectiles at the same time. So, looking at these skills, NingGuang is a really burst type of character, and she is capable of dealing a lot of damage within a short amount of time, and she's really strong for bosses. So next we move on to her constellations, and like I said at the beginning of the video, my NingGuang is at Constellation 6, but that does not mean that you need her at C6 to be good. And let's just go through the constellations real quick. So at Constellation 1, her normal attack will deal AoE damage. So that is really strong, especially when her normal attack does a bulk of her, her total DPS. So having that normal attack deal AoE damage is just a really nice perk to have on her. And if you don't have it, she will still be a extremely strong boss, single target burst damage output, but if you do have her at C1, it will add a little bit more of AoE to her kit. And moving on to Constellation 2, Jade Screen, which is her elemental skill, will have its cooldown reset every time it's destroyed, but it can occur once every 6 seconds. So this is really strong, because sometimes you do need to cast the Jade Screen to deal damage on a boss, and because it can be destroyed, the moment you put it on a boss, it will immediately be destroyed. So it will deal that damage, and then after that it will be destroyed. So having this cooldown, especially when you cannot aim her Jade Screen, is really nice, just to prevent some accidental destruction of her Jade Screen, because I want to go through a little bit more on her talents, her Ascension Talents in a bit, but let's just finish up with her constellations. So Constellation 3, as usual, Q increases its level by 3, and then Constellation 4, Jade Screen increases nearby characters' elemental resistance by 10%. So this is not the best constellation to have, and I think it's really not needed. Constellation 1 and Constellation 2 is really nice, but you don't need to go to Constellation 4. And of course, for Constellation 5, Jade Screen gets its level increased by 3. And then lastly, Constellation 6 will be really strong. So when Star Shatter is used, which is her elemental burst, NingGuang gains 7 Star Jades. So Star Jade is usually kept at 3, but if you use this skill, the elemental burst, and also you have C6 on her, you will immediately be loaded with 7 Star Jades, which just adds a ton more of damage to her kit. But with that being said, it is a really heavy investment, so I don't really recommend you guys go for it unless there is a raid up banner. So next, let's take a look at her passive talents. And her level 20 Ascension talent is really strong because when NingGuang is in possession of Star Jades, her charged attack does not consume stamina. Meaning to say, you can use charged attacks without consuming any stamina and sacrificing that precious stamina for your dodging when you just have Star Jades. And that will just increase her damage output by so much because you will have the stamina to dodge, and also you will still be able to, you know, put out that charged attack. And with charged attacks with Star Jades, you will be dishing out additional damage. And if you look over here, the damage per Star Jade is 62%. So if you have 3 Star Jades, that's an additional 180% damage, which is really significant if it doesn't cost any stamina. Now moving on to her level 70 Ascension passive. A character that passes through the Jade Screen will gain a 12% geo damage bonus for 10 seconds, and that is really strong if you have another geo character in the party, and also just really strong for NingGuang herself. So I will be demonstrating how I will use this passive in a bit as I go attack some bosses in a bit. But yeah, she is just really strong at a single target bossing burst damage output. Next, we move on to her weapon options. So for weapon options, like I said, the best weapon will be the Lost Prayer to the Sacred Winds, and part of it is because of the crit rate. So if you have crit rate on a weapon for NingGuang, then you will be able to build crit damage on her circlet, and that is just really strong, especially for her elemental burst. So Lost Prayer will be the weapon of choice, but some notable mentions would be the Eye of Perception. So the Eye of Perception is a really strong choice because normal and charged attacks have a 50% chance of firing a bolt of perception, dealing 240% attack as damage. This bolt can bounce between enemies a maximum of 4 times, and the effect can occur once every 12 seconds. And the main stat is attack percent, so the Bolt of Perception is going to deal a lot of damage if you are using the Eye of Perception. Also, another weapon to recommend would be the Solar Pearl from the Battle Pass. So if you don't have the other 2 weapons that I've mentioned just now, Solar Pearl could be the weapon for you. So similar to Lost Prayer, the main stat of Solar Pearl will be crit rate. And if you take a look at the passive, normal attack hits increase elemental skill and elemental burst damage by 20% for 6 seconds. Likewise, elemental skill or elemental burst hits increase normal attack damage by 20% for 6 seconds. So for a character like NingGuang, who is super reliant on her normal attack as well as her elemental burst to deal damage, Solar Pearl will be the weapon that provides her with a significant boost for both her normal attacks and the elemental burst and elemental skill damage. So Solar Pearl is just something that is amazing on NingGuang if you do choose to build her, and I can definitely see very strong damage output from NingGuang if you use the Solar Pearl on her. Next, we move on to her artifacts. Now, for her artifacts, I have chosen to go for the 2-set Archaic Petra as well as 2-set Noblesse Oblige. And the Archaic Petra is just pretty self-explanatory actually. because her normal attack, elemental skill, as well as elemental burst all scale off of geo damage bonus. So having that extra 15% would be really nice to have on NingGuang. And the Noblesse Oblige is just a personal preference. You don't have to follow me. But I have chosen to go with Noblesse Oblige just to give her a little bit more damage on her Q. And because of that, I have also chosen to level up her Q a little bit more, and that's why you see it's at level 9 compared to, the other skills. Now, there are some other alternatives that you may want to go for, and one of it is Archaic Petra 2-piece and Gladiator 2-piece, and I think that is the most common build that I see on NingGuang. That works also really well because that will give her a lot more consistent damage in her normal attacks. Well, I mean her charged attacks as well. So having that Gladiator set definitely benefits. Now, another artifact set that you could consider would be the 4-piece Bollet, and the 4-piece Bollet is just really nice for having that 40% extra damage on her normal attack as well as her charged attack. But do take note, you need to be protected by a shield, and her Jade Screen does not count as a shield, so you have to proc that Crystallize before this effect will take place. So you do have to collect the elemental shards for that Crystallize before you will proc the Bollet set effect. So yeah, that's all for her artifacts. Lastly, let's move on to team composition. Now, first of all, NingGuang is a main DPS, so you should use her as a main DPS and not a support. And also because she is of the Geo element, she is not reliant on any elemental reactions to cause damage. So in light of that, I have formed a team that goes really nice with NingGuang. So first of all, we have two Geo element characters, and the supporting character would be Zhongli, and that is just because he will be able to add a little bit of that Geo resonance with his E and also protect NingGuang with his shield. And also the last two characters would be Pyro characters, with Bennett being able to amplify damage for NingGuang and also give a source of healing. And the last Pyro character is just a filler, and you can pretty much put any Pyro character. You could put Diluc or Xingyan or just basically anyone, right? So the reason for this team is because since this team or NingGuang as your main DPS does not rely on any elemental reactions, having two Pyro will give you that additional 25% attack, and also having two Geo will give you another additional 15% attack when you are protected by a shield. So as you can see, this team does not rely on elemental reactions, and instead it relies on just straight pure raw damage. So if you are into the Geo DPS, NingGuang is definitely a good choice. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys. I hope this video has helped you guys understand NingGuang and how to build her a little bit better. And if this video has helped, do make sure you are subscribed to the channel for more tips like this, and also just do me a favor and smash that like button as well. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!